This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Ghana set for presidential and parliamentary elections on Monday. Britain and the European Union hold last-ditch Brexit talks as the end of the two sides' transition period looms. And Egypt's President El-Sisi set to visit France for talks on regional issues. Welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, the African Union is upbeat ahead of the commencement of trade under the African Continental Free Trade Area. And in your sports, Kenyan Kibiwot Kandie smashes the half-marathon world record in Valencia. Let's begin the hour in Ghana, where in a matter of hours, voters will be heading to the polls. President Nana Akufo-Addo wrapped up his campaigns on Saturday by holding a major rally in the capital, Accra. This was a culmination of a tour of the city. Akufo-Addo is facing a stiff challenge from former President John Dramani Mahama. Critics have accused him of failing to revive the Ghanaian economy. However, he has also won praise for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Let's cross over for the very latest, and we'll hear that from Nabil Rufai. He's joining me now from Accra. Nabil, can you update us on the preparations for the elections, including the logistics, especially the threat, given the threat of COVID-19 that looms large?
Indeed, we can say that all is set for the polls tomorrow. Sometime last week, the Electoral Commission sent out the ballot sheets to all the regions and assured the country that everything has been sent to the polling stations across the country in preparedness for tomorrow's poll. So on that side, we can say that all is set. Also, we know that in terms of security, the security personnel, over 62,000 security personnel have also been deployed across the country to ensure safety and beef up security at the polling stations, and also to thwart any issues that will be coming up at the polling stations. Now, we know that for now, election observers have arrived in the country. We've had the AU election observers come in. We've also seen the ECOWAS election observers being headed by former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, also arriving here in Ghana. And also we have our local election observers, the coalition, CODEO, also in readiness for the elections tomorrow. So on the grounds, we can say that everybody is anxious for tomorrow's polls and all is set. Now, in terms of COVID-19, the Electoral Commission has actually said that it's going to enforce all safety measures in the polling stations. The fact that if a voter comes to the polling station without a face mask, he or she will not be allowed to cast ballots, and there's also going to be some social distancing being observed tomorrow. So everything is actually set, as we can see, from the indications that we are gathering from the Electoral Commission.
So President Akufo-Addo is facing a challenge from former President John Dramani Mahama. But in terms of the voter, what is at stake for Ghanaian voters in this election?
Indeed, a lot is at stake at this year's election, because when you compare the two front runners, former President John Mahama and also the incumbents Nana Akufo-Addo, this will be the third time that they are facing off in elections. In 2012, John Mahama, the incumbent, and in 2016, Nana Akufo-Addo. So this is like the third time that they are meeting, and we are going to be the winner of these elections. Now, in the premise of how the economy has been handled, the former President John Mahama is saying that since he lost power in 2016, he believes that the incumbent Nana Akufo-Addo has not really handled the economy very well, and he wants a second chance to come back to continue with some of the infrastructure development that he really put up during his tenure and also improve the economy. Nana Akufo-Addo, on the other hand, is also saying that he has done quite well in terms of fulfilling some of his promises, key one being the free senior high school, and would want a second term to fulfill all other promises that he's not been able to complete. So it's really a battle between these two frontrunners, Nana Akufo-Addo, the incumbent, and the former president, John Mahama. And we know that more than 17 million people are going to cast their ballot tomorrow, and we have about 2.6 million being first-time voters. And I have to also put out that there are mixed polls when it comes to who the winner is going to be this time around, and a lot of people have said it's going to be really a close call between the incumbent and former President John Mahama.
All right, Nabil Ahmed Rufai joining us there from Accra. Thank you. In the meantime, political parties and presidential candidates have signed an agreement to uphold peace ahead of the election. As CGTN's Daniel Arap Moi tells us, it is yet another chance for the country to witness a duel between two main rivals, President Nana Akufo-Addo and former President John Mahama.
Amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, campaigns in Ghana have been muted and laid back. However, political temperatures have been rising as the West African nation once again prepares for yet another political contest between President Nana Akufo-Addo and the man he replaced, John Dramani Mahama. Ghana is one of the few nations in the region and the continent that has earned respect and honor for managing post-election conflicts. However, this does not mean that clashes have not been reported before. It's based on this that leading candidates have committed to resolve any differences in the aftermath of the polls.
We in the NPP want a credible election conducted in a peaceful and tranquil atmosphere. But certainly we have a track record that will make an vote to renew our mandate, just as it was in 2016. We want this victory to be sweet and incontestable.
Apart from Akufo-Addo and Mahama, 10 other candidates are contesting for the top seat. They include 3 women. Opinion polls have put incumbent Akufo-Addo ahead of his rival by a narrow margin, and this has set the stage for what could be another contested election, hence the need for the two main rivals to commit to peace.
As we end our campaign tomorrow and prepare to vote on Monday, I pledge to ensure peace and preserve the stability of our dear nation Ghana. Elections are about counting heads and not cutting heads, and so we'll work together towards peaceful elections. I urge the security agencies, voters and all stakeholders to ensure law and order. We expect to see all security personnel behave professionally.
In the 2012 election, Mahama narrowly defeated Akufo-Addo with 50.7% of the vote cast. However, in 2016, Akufo-Addo returned the favor by beating the then incumbent Mahama by 53.8%. Over 60,000 security personnel have been deployed to manage any pre- or post-election clashes. As local voters wait to cast their ballots, the hour ticks towards the D-Day. Daniel Arap Moi, CGTN.
And now to the latest on Brexit. As trade talks between the UK and the European Union resume today, just weeks before interim trade arrangements expire. The UK Prime Minister and the President of the European Union Commission spoke yesterday, but failed to make any progress. Nicole Johnson has more from London.
Boris Johnson and Ursula von der Leyen had a 1-hour telephone call. It was really a sign of how desperate both sides have become to try and get this deal over the line. Because what happened on Friday night was that the chief negotiators here in London, who'd been trying to work on this for both sides for a week, essentially gave up. They had a pause for 24 hours. They kicked it upstairs to their bosses and said, you try and sort it out. Now the talks are back on again. Those chief negotiators are at it in Brussels to try and reach a deal. But the message from both sides is that significant differences remain. So it's really coming down to the wire. It's difficult to know whether this deal potential deal is in jeopardy, or whether this is just sort of last-minute politicking to try and make it look as difficult as possible for domestic audiences on both sides. But time is really running out. Both sides are meeting right now. They'll do so for the next few days, and there's a lot of pressure to try and get a deal done by Thursday, when all the leaders of the European Union will be meeting in Brussels.
Well, this crucial moment in Brexit negotiations comes as the UK is preparing to become the first country to roll out the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, and the timing has some folks concerned. Experts say a no-deal scenario could lead to major disruptions in the movement of goods between the two sides. However, government officials say contingency plans are in place. Last week, the UK gave emergency approval for the vaccine and ordered enough doses to vaccinate 20 million people. The doses are set to be administered on Tuesday, starting at hospitals. The top priority will be vaccinating frontline healthcare workers and the elderly. Let's shift our focus now to Egypt, where President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is heading to France for a 3-day state visit. The two nations are longtime allies. France has described Egypt as a strategic partner for stability in the Middle East. President el-Sisi will meet his host, President Emmanuel Macron, on Monday. The Libyan peace process is expected to feature in the talks. The African Union has been holding a special summit to discuss one of the continent's biggest trade milestones. The 13th Special Summit of the Assembly on the African Continental Free Trade Area is being chaired by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who said the agreement signaled a new era of progress. Trading under the AfCFTA is set to start on January the 1st, 2021. The treaty looks to create an integrated African market. So far, over 30 countries have ratified the deal. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the summit in his capacity as the African Union chairperson.
The commencement of trading under the AfCFTA on the 1st of January 2021 is one of the most significant milestones in the continental integration project. Our treaty will boost intra-African trade. It will promote industrialization and competitiveness and contribute to job creation, and it will unleash regional value chains that will facilitate Africa's meaningful integration into the global economy.
You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. Concerns raised over the potential spread of the coronavirus at a camp for refugees in the Sudan. And tariff wars between Australia and China could see more wine exports from South Africa.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba, Johannesburg,
Ethiopia,
Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
There are concerns over the risk of a COVID-19 outbreak among Ethiopian refugees currently sheltering in Sudan. According to an official from a medical aid agency, Doctors Without Borders, most of the refugees arriving in the Rakuba refugee camp have no form of protection, including masks. Dr. Ali Mohammed, who runs a clinic near the camp, also says some of the refugees seeking medical assistance have been showing signs of the disease, but there are no facilities to test them for COVID-19. Rakuba refugee camp has more than 44,000 Ethiopian refugees who are fleeing fighting in the Tigray region. Dr. Mohammed is calling for more efforts to create health protocols, even as the UN and other aid agencies set up amenities for the refugees.
The problem becomes bigger because the person that comes here will go back to their camp where they live surrounded by people, so they could spread it very easily. There are also people going through difficult times. There are young people, older people, and also people who have chronic illnesses are there. And the people who have immune-compromising diseases exist. This is all a risk that COVID could spread more easily if it is found.
The matter is scary. When people are crowded together, they may be infected with coronavirus. People sit together and do not wear masks. Of course, it's scary.
If God wants that, then it will happen. When in Ethiopia and a number of people died, we're no longer concerned with that under our current circumstances, especially with shared housing. Even if you tried hard to protect yourself, you cannot achieve it.
Meanwhile, the head of the COVID-19 response team in the Democratic Republic of Congo says hospitals are facing a shortage of oxygen supplies undergoing treatment. Professor Jean-Jacques Muyembe added the shortage is endangering patient lives. CGTN's Chris Ochamringa has more details.
The leader of the DRC's COVID-19 National Task Force has expressed concern about the shortage of oxygen supplies at hospitals treating COVID-19 patients in Kinshasa. Professor Jean-Jacques Muyembe says the situation has seriously affected the ability of doctors to treat patients. There is only one company that produces oxygen in the DRC's capital. The company's managers say their production capacity has been affected by frequent power blackouts in the city. Medical oxygen is the primary treatment for most patients with severe COVID-19 symptoms. According to a tweet by Professor Muyembe, authorities at the National Electricity Company have promised to provide stable power for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. The shortage of oxygen supplies has been reported at a time that the DRC is experiencing a second wave of infections. Most of the cases have been recorded in the capital Kinshasa, which has better health facilities than those found in rural areas. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
In South Africa, the country's wine industry will be looking to increase its market share in China after it imposed provisional new export tariffs on Australian wines. The move stems from anti-dumping concerns and will effectively see several duties imposed on Australian wines entering China. CGTN's Travers Andrews has the details.
With Australian wines now subject to provisional export tariffs in China, it's South African labels such as these which could be the biggest winners. They could end up on the shelves of Chinese supermarkets and across e-commerce platforms, as the industry looks to grow beyond its 1% market share on the back of new tariff duties on Australian wines. The local industry has for many years looked to the Chinese market for much needed growth, and this development opens up new opportunities.
This is definitely a very big market for South African wine, and one that we intend to explore straight away. Our market manager in China, based in Shanghai, has already started discussions with various traditional Australian wine importers, as well as bigger groups of companies. And we really feel that this is a good opportunity for South African wine in the Chinese market.
It is the economies of scale that make the Chinese consumer wine market such an attractive drawcard for the industry, because growing beyond the current 1% market share could lead to greater sustainability for the sector. Traditional markets have been far from explosive, but China is shaping up to be one of the most important markets for South African wines, especially red wine cultivars.
Or actually even for them to experience better quality South African wines. And also for me, long term, I see that there is a big potential, not only for red wine, China is a mainly red wine market, but also white wine.
The South African wine industry presence in China has been growing, and so have Chinese investments in local wineries, much of which is situated in the Western Cape. Here in the Franschhoek wine growing region, some of the most established farms already have their premium brands on sale in the Chinese market. Many, though, have for years looked to upscale their volumes to the east. The industry, though, believes while the tariff issue does open up some new opportunities, a long-term approach to the Chinese market is what is needed.
In terms of our relationship with Chinese wine importers, I think the most important thing to focus on for any South African wine exporter is that of building relationships. It has long been known that relationships are key when it comes to your exporters, and to ensure that they understand our country, our quality, where we stand, and having really open lines of communication throughout the period is most important. Those relationship building exercises are what's going to see us through in the longer term.
And as perennial winners of international wine competitions, many stakeholders believe the quality is there to back up the relationship, which could look set to grow even further in the near future. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
Let's now take a look at your sports news. Here's what's ahead. Kenyan Kibiwot Kandie smashes the half-marathon world record in Valencia.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights,